Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Hawks Nest. I am Brennan Shabath. Joining me today is Bryson Worley, Director of Golf and Head Men's Golf Coach at University of North Georgia. Bryson, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's awesome.
We're here at Shasta Golf Club again, where we were just a couple days ago with Sierra Campbell, the head women's golf coach. Now it's your turn. So very excited to get this opportunity to talk with you. I typically send some topics and questions in advance to coaches, and just the first question that came to mind when it came to your team is, how in the world are they this good? Because it seems every week they do something different, break a new record, set a new score, whatever it is, and it's just astonishing how, not only how good they are, but how much they can keep it up and how consistent they've been. So for starters, how did you guys get here?
Well, it's a long journey to get here,
Yeah.
obviously. This started in 2018 when I got here, and then just building a culture in the program, and a lot of buy-in by the guys before the guys on this team. It's just vital to where we are today. We've been pretty fortunate in having guys be able to develop a culture of competitiveness and chemistry and just really high standards, and we're still reaping the benefits of that. I mean, it's a daily process to make sure that continues. But yeah, it's exciting. It's a lot of fun. The guys relish the challenge of being elite and then staying elite. I think is sometimes a lot harder. We definitely have some unfinished business from the last couple of years and even this year. So. Yeah, they're always setting really high goals. You know, when you get in the van when they don't win, and they're talking about, or excuse me, when they do win and they're still not satisfied, you know you're in a good spot. And we've had that happen a couple of times already this year, and definitely over the last few years.
I want to go over some of the numbers for you, just because I know you're a pretty humble guy and you may not know the full scope, but pretty much since February 2022, which I find college golf is a unique sport because you basically get two seasons in one year. You've got your fall season and your spring season. Since your spring season in the 21-22 year, you guys have played in 39 events and won 14 of them. That's 36% of the events you've played, and you've gotten worse than fifth place just 5 times in that stretch. You've been to 3 NCAA tournaments, won the PBC last year for the first time, won the regional, and obviously go to the national championship and finish as runner-up. You've had 11 different individual medalists, 7 all-region selections, 8 All-Americans.
Wow.
That's pretty unfound success at that level. When you actually look at the numbers, I mean, 36, you got a 36% chance when you tee off on Monday to go win a tournament, basically right now.
That is, I think that's definitely unheard of, and I didn't know that until you sent me that earlier this week. Coaches, we're just geared, at least I am, how can we get better for the next event? And it is kind of humbling to look back at the success since February of 2022, you said, and just a 36% winning percentage, winning a tournament, not beating opponents, just winning the tournament is absolutely, to be honest, absurd. But it's a testament to, again, the high expectations of what these guys want to do every week. And you know, it's really hard to win in golf. We're just really blessed to be in a position where we have a chance to do that, and that's because of our guys.
And so we talk about last year and the national championship for you guys. What was an interesting dynamic for me to follow with you guys last year was the expectation of, I mean, you guys were not #1 in the country in the preseason poll. The first poll of the year, you make #1, and you don't lose that spot the rest of the year. So the expectations of a national championship are there, but you guys had still not been that far before. You hadn't gotten out of stroke play in the tournament, still hadn't won the PBC. Okay, expectations, go win the PBC, you do. Okay, the regional, handle business there. And then in stroke play, for the first 2 rounds, it looked like maybe this was going to be the same result as the 2 previous years, where you don't get into that top 8 and you don't make the bracket, and then that miraculous comeback at the end, and then you guys win 2 matches in the match play to get to the national championship. What was that balance like for you with expecting to be that good, but also this is uncharted waters that we're swimming in?
Yeah, it was unique. I mean, we've obviously over the last few years been a really good golf team, and you're playing against teams that have been there and done that, and we're still kind of the new kid on the block in a sense. And Yeah, there's two separate things going there. Is handling that expectation all year. I've always been a coach that doesn't. A lot of coaches will kind of shy away from talking about it. We just say, first of all, the polls don't really matter. We're just trying to get to the postseason, but it doesn't change what we're trying to do every day. But then I'd be lying if I didn't say the national championship was. We kind of had a wall put up the last couple of years. I think we'd missed match play. I think in Ohio by a stroke or two. We were I think at the time 3 in the country going in. The year before that, kind of the same situation, top 5 team in the country, and just didn't get through. And again, golf is hard. It can happen. And we didn't talk about the one thing we didn't talk about this year or last May at the national championship was. Oh gosh, here we are again. We're, I think, what'd you say, 11th? I think we were in 11th place going into the last day. We got in the van. We went to Coach Campbell's actually with us. She was, she's instrumental in our program growth as well. We all coach together, and it's one big family. And I remember sitting at a restaurant eating, and we were kind of somber after the second round, and then you just saw them collectively. And this is their experience and their maturity and who they are as people, but you just see their jaw kind of set at lunch. And then we meet later that night, and it was just, okay, we're going to get this taken care of. And then even during the round, it didn't feel like you were going to do that. And, we kind of started off a little slow. Crookie Cat was really tough down at Orange County National. 12 had our number, a whole 12 had our number all week. And then Ryan Hogan, who is now at Chattanooga, but was our assistant at the time last year, did a phenomenal job behind me of about hole 15. He was standing on 15 tee, and just like, guys, we're okay. And they were like, yeah, you're right, we're good. And then I tell the story. I'm standing in the fairway on 17 in that final round of stroke play, and I know we went over this last year at the end of the year, but it's nice to kind of revisit this. We're standing in the fairway, and I'm watching Jack Voida up ahead of me drop an eagle putt, and I remember getting chills, and I was like, oh, and he turns around and kind of does this bird thing or whatever, and Will Chambliss is walking up to me because I was standing in the fairway waiting on him, and he goes, was that a big bird? And I said, yep, big bird. And then Will's walking to me, puts his bag down, and about that time, literally probably 15 to 20 seconds later, we hear the roars on 16 with Hughes Thruckle chipping in, Ryan Hogan. I could hear Ryan's voice to this day, let's go. And I remember we actually revisited it this past week. Will and I were talking about it, and we both had to set ourselves, because, I still get chills thinking about it, about that moment. And he goes, wow, Coach, we got to settle down. I was like, yeah, that's right. So we go through our routine, kind of laugh about it now, but kind of go through our routine. As a coach, I have to make sure I'm calm and poised as well. And then he stripes one up there, and I think birdie's 17, and then, 9 strokes in the last 3 holes. And we were still not really sure. I think we jumped up, a lot of teams still out on the golf course. We jumped up the field. We really weren't sure. And then as the day went on, I think we ended up in 5th. So that was just a huge day, kind of knocking that dust or whatever that is, knocking that off so we can make it to into match play. And then match play is a whole other animal. Like once you get in there, it's, you're just trying to get in there. And fortunate, of course, everybody knows the story of the Final Four. And that day was just, it was just such an emotional week. We ended up, by the time the national championship rolled around, I think we'd played 7 times in 6 days. And everybody talks about the physical toll that takes, but it's also the emotional toll. And especially after coming off the Final Four victory, the way we did, we were emotionally drained. The last day, I thought we played great the last day. Colorado Christian, hats off, played really, really well. They beat us, but even that day, we had a chance at the end to come back, and it was funny. It had flipped from the day before when I was standing in the fairway with Will Chambliss watching Noah hit his putt in the Final Four, to the next day I'm standing in the fairway on 18 with Noah, and Will Chambliss makes eagle on 17, and we hear that roar. And so all of that was just an exciting year, and I'm glad my guys have that experience and that memory, and it's special for our program knowing that we can do it at that level, and we are good enough.
I want to revisit the stroke play comeback first,
Okay.
because they're obviously the two comebacks of the week. I was lucky enough to be on 16 when Hughes chipped in.
Okay.
And when you're there in that moment, and for people that don't get to experience college golf, the unique thing about it is you've got 5 guys all playing at the same time, and each stroke matters the same. So an 8-shot deficit, whatever it was, may seem like a lot, but birdie, 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 all of a sudden you're back in it. And so, like you mentioned, Jack eagles on 17, Hughes birdies right behind him on 16, and in 30 seconds you guys gain 3 shots on whoever was in front of you. And then Will birdies, and then Hughes birdies his way in. And the way they came back, there was so much going on the golf course at one time. I think Miles finished with 2 birdies in the last 3 holes. The way everything's happening at once, it's you go from standing on 16T with your last guys thinking we're probably 30 minutes from our season being over, to now we got to get ready and move on to match play. All of a sudden we found our way in it. And we joke about it, I think, on campus a lot of times when you guys are out of town in a tournament, where we go, they're doing the North Georgia thing. And it's maybe the first couple holes, the front 9 on day 1 are not great, but if you're ahead, don't sleep, because the Nighthawks are coming. And that's what they did again. How have you guys built up that sort of ability to never be out of it, even if there's only 3 holes left?
I think it's just a competitive expectation we have here. I mean, it became a joke a few years ago. I mean, we've done that for the last few years, and it's almost now, as a coach, I would really wish we would not put ourselves and dig a hole like we do. And we've gotten better at that, and we've really dug into that and tried to figure out why. And I really feel like we've gotten better at that. But it's also nice to know when they have that gear and they have that belief that they're good enough to pull something out when they need to. And that started 2 or 3 years ago. And I joke, we're really close with the guys at Lincoln Memorial, and they've had a phenomenal program. And we used to joke with LMU about the Big Blue Run, because I would say, oh, here comes LMU's Big Blue Run. And now we've learned how to do our own Big Blue Run. And it's just, it's nice as a coach when you can go to your guys and say, okay, it's time to go. You know, and they hit the gas. We did that this past weekend. I challenged them mid-round in the final round, and you know, it's pretty special. And that also bleeds down into the younger guys, and that's just the expectation. You find a way to get it done. We're not always the prettiest golf swings. I recruit competitive, high-character guys that love to win, and it kind of feels like it's working so far. So I'm trying not to get rid of that formula.
The one thing that I really wanted to ask you about is the difference between stroke play and match play. And a simple way to put it for those at home that don't know is stroke play is my team versus your team. Match play is more me versus you, and how that adds up as a team. I was so impressed with how your guys played in match play, and not just their ability to score and still play good golf, but to hit big shots when they needed to attack their opponent in a game that's an individual game where there's no defense, but you still can attack your opponent and be aggressive and competitive with the guy on the other side. How do you build that where every round you play this season, pretty much, other than maybe a medal match play event in the middle of the year, is a stroke play event, and you're just trying to gain more shots than everybody else, and it's not me versus you as much as it is my team versus your team. How do you build a good team for stroke play that can also succeed in match play like you guys did?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that there's 2 parts to that. I think that the first part is we have the way we qualify, we're always qualifying. We're always, I'm coming up with games where they're head-to-head, and the guys are always competing head-to-head against each other. The stroke play is its own monster, kind of. It's its own thing. And then match play, well, at least at the Division II level, we have medal match play, so it's still stroke-based, which I love. But I think there's something about knowing who your adversary is or who your opponent is that my guys relish. And we do a lot of that in practice, and we've been fortunate enough to schedule some medal match kind of matches throughout the year. Like last year, we had Grand Valley State came down and played, and it's just the experience is really helpful. And a lot of my guys play true match play during the summer, whether it's in the the state match play or whatever. So they have some familiarity. But I really think, and I've seen my guys when they know they have a direct opponent and they know who they're playing and that's the good thing about the national championship is that's what you get. You get North Georgia versus West Texas A&M. You get North Georgia versus Colorado Christian, and you know what you're up against. And then it's in a micro sense, it's Hughes versus this guy, or it's and they know who they're trying to beat. And I think it just it's a testament to their competitiveness and what they do all day. I guarantee you here in a little bit at practice we'll have a lot of little head-to-head matches around the chipping green or on the range or whatever it is, and then we'll set up some putting games, and there's a lot of trash being talked, a lot of posturing, and they just love to compete, and that's what it's really all about.
So you guys build that competitive spirit internally with each other, which I think is so cool. And you can see it because the interesting thing to me is that, a lot of that is behind closed doors, so to speak, where it's just you and your team, and they're building that internal competition with each other. But it's also built a camaraderie, it feels like, where when it's not just you and your team, when you're around other people, other teams, and competing against other schools, there's a bond and a connection between your guys that reaches a different level than just having the same goal. I think that competition helps build that, would you say?
Yeah, and I think that that's something we think that's really important here, and it's one of the cornerstones of our program is chemistry, and our guys really care about you and love each other. But at the same time, and they know, and it's the old adage of iron sharpens iron, right? So they're always competing, they're always trying to make each other better. And then that competitiveness just happens. And so, they're always trying to compete against their teammates in qualifying. And then a lot of that bleeds over into the tournament because I feel like, and this is something I say a lot, is it's really hard to give up on the course when you care about the guy across the fairway from you. And I think it's funny listening to the Sierra's interview the other day. She mentioned that as well in the women's program. And you compete for the guy you care about, the guy that you're in the van. Now, you may get back in the van and start like, hey, what are you doing on two? Like, how'd you double two or whatever, double hole two? But there's just this feeling of we're going to find a way to get it done at all times. And we do a reflection at the end of each year, really at each semester, but at the end of each year. And the two words that kept coming out team-wide this past season was chemistry and competitiveness. And if I could build a cornerstone outside of character and integrity, which are kind of, I hope, givens at college athletic level, not always, but at least in our program we feel like that's a given, is those are two pretty good cornerstones to kind of build your program on. And I tell them there's kind of two things that we don't tolerate, and they know this and they could tell you this, but it's we don't tolerate a victim mentality or feeling sorry for yourself, and we don't tolerate quitting. You're just not going to and play for us. And so that expectation is there, and it's pretty. I think that's what you're seeing is the tangible evidence of that when you see us able to do those things at a high level in competition. So
with that chemistry and camaraderie that you guys built, specifically for last year, for the team that goes all the way to the national championship, I'm wondering if there's a favorite moment that sticks out, and it can be on the course, off the course, whatever it is, but I know how close you are with these guys and how much chemistry you have with them, not just them with each other. I'm wondering what your favorite moment from last year was. When you think of the 23-24 season, what's that first picture that you see in your head?
It's always van rides. I mean, obviously at the end, to be honest, the one thing that I think about a lot, it's easy to think about the cheers and the roars of the two 30-footers in the Final Four, but I think the thing I was most proud of, and it's a sad moment, was watching all of our guys that got a chance to come down, and that's a testament to our administration for bringing our whole team down. But looking back, it was a sad moment at the time, but seeing the tears and the frustration, but looking also at they had given everything they had, and I am so proud of that. And very rarely can you walk away from something, or at least a competition of that magnitude, and feel like you have no regrets. And to a man, we talk about it still to this day, like that's all you can ask for. We did everything we could, we just didn't win. And but seeing the guys like Noah Zedeker and Steven Kinzel and Gabe Larson and Will Chambliss, where they are just, and the other guys too, but those guys who have given so much to this program to put us where they are. And, I think that's what I was most proud of. I mean, it's hard to say goodbye, but it's nice to send them off in a way where they had given everything and they have no regrets. And I always tell them at the end of the year, only one team's happy in postseason. Our goal is always to be in the postseason and have a chance. And so there's only one team that's ever super happy, and that's tough. And I think all you can wish for is you have a day like that where you have, outside of winning, you have a day where you've just given everything you had. And so that's a testament to those. That's what I remember. But then the van rides and the meals and the all year, you just can't. I mean, it's a funny team, and we have so much fun together, and that's really important. But yeah, I think from an informal stance, it was definitely the van rides, but from a formal, it was definitely seeing them giving everything they had for a program and a school that had given a lot to them.
We saw how funny they were on media day. I think the people at home aren't quite aware of it yet. They haven't seen it yet, but your guys were asked to do their best Bryson Worley impressions, and that was a hoot to see them put that together.
Yeah, they're good. And then what you didn't ask me was me getting to do an impression of them, so we'll do that for another time. Save that for another time. We are all pretty harsh with each other as far as doing impressions and stuff, but that's what makes it fun. And it's media day was a hoot. I'm always scared. I have to go to media day to make sure everything's on the up and up. But they're great.
Going back to the emotional piece about them giving everything they've got, and what you mentioned earlier, the full emotions of that national championship tournament. You guys played 108 holes of golf in 6 days.
Yeah.
108 holes of emotional golf, of this is my season, and for a couple of your guys, this is my career on the line with every single swing. And the swing of emotions, I thought, as an observer for the Final Four, was so cool and such a unique moment to experience, because there's not very often humans have that opportunity to be so on edge and so nervous and so stressed, and for what you're stressed about to pay off to the level of it brings you to tears. And that was super cool for me to see when Noah Zedeker makes his putt on 18 to, I think, tie his match, which we needed.
Tied it. That's right.
And then Will makes his to win his match and win the match overall for you guys. It was an immediate roar and cheer like it was a football game when Will's putt goes in. And 9 seconds later, most people around were in tears. And there's just not many times in sports that happens. And your guys invoke that emotion in people. What was that like for you to kind of see that reaction?
Not surprising, but it was just you're so much of it's built up. And then you just let it go. I mean, I was just as guilty as everybody else emotionally. Seeing Jack Voida, on his knees and hugging him and all of that. And it didn't surprise me. These guys give a lot and have given a lot and give a lot every day to make this thing what it is. And it was a special moment. So, sorry.
That's good. That will not sound good on the audio, so
I'll try to redo it. But yeah, so, it was really good that, to see that emotion come out in those guys, and to see that side, because they do put so much into being elite, and it's hard being a high-level athlete, and to be as good and have all the expectations that they have on them. The university, it's nice. We're at a university where golf is important, and so but with that comes a lot of expectation, and so they want to do well for their school and their teammates. We talk about, you talk about being nervous. I know Sierra says this all the time. Coach Campbell, pressure's a privilege. We talk about running towards nervous. I mean, none of us work really hard to not be nervous, to not be in the mix, and so we want to be nervous, and we want to be in that position. And I think we outwardly or openly talk about it and try to get in there. And it's funny watching new guys in the lineup like this year, like a Hunter Smith or a Colby Bennett, getting nervous, and they're like, Coach, this is fun, and this is why we do what we do, is to get in that mix. It's almost like an adrenaline rush. I think that's why we all play, is to have a chance to win, and and I think they get more and more comfortable with that, and so they're looking for the next rush, right? It's like, I got to dive off a higher cliff, and so sometimes you look at a Hughes Thruckle or a Jack or a Ethan Day, and they look really calm, and they are, but they've just been in that nervousness so much they're able to kind of handle it a little better. And the more chance we get to put our guys in those positions, whether it's in practice or in playing against the best competition in the country, that's what we do, and that's, I think, why we handle that pretty well. Now, you don't always handle it great, but at least you're in the position to learn from it. We call it getting in the kitchen. You can't learn how to cook, or you're not comfortable until you get used to the heat. So the more times you get in the kitchen, the better off you are. And we look for guys that look for the heat and look for the kitchen.
Is it more nerve-wracking as a player or as a coach? Because I know you've got the experience of both. As a player, you're hitting the shot, you can affect it. As a coach, you're not. But I know the nerves are still through the roof for you guys.
I say it all the time. I would much rather play. It was funny. I think it was 2 years ago. This is a funny story, at least. And we were in the fairway at Grand Oaks at the regional. And for people that don't know, the regional is the most stressful time of the year. Typically only 5 teams get through, and we're in the toughest region in the country. And I remember standing in the fairway, and Danielle Humphrey, who was Noah Zedeker's boyfriend, we're standing on the 18th. I was standing in the 18th fairway, and she was there, and I was like, I hate this. Like, because I can't control anything. I just, Noah's got to get this in the fairway. Now, I would never say that in front of Noah, and we've since talked about it. And the funny thing is that Noah was just as nervous on the tee, right? And so, but just having no control is really hard. And the flip side of that is I trust my guys, and I'm going to love them regardless if they hit the shot in the water or if they put it in the fairway. But it's still nerve-wracking not having that control. In golf, we try to do so much of the preparation beforehand, and so at the tournament, I've actually had people ask me, like, "What are you doing? Like, you and Ryan are just sitting in the cart, or y'all just kind of standing there?" And so much of coaching is knowing when to step in and when not to. At least in golf, I think some coaches overcoach. Sierra and I talk about this all the time. I think you prepare your guys and your ladies for what they're going to see, and then you let them run. For another analogy, you let your horses run, and we try to do that. And some guys, you got to know how they handle it and what they want. And so,
One thing Sierra and I talked about that I really, it's something I've noticed with her team, but first experienced with yours at the national championship, is the true, like, concrete in front of you form of grit in golf. And it's something that she and I talked about, and anybody at home listening can go and watch that interview about how people don't expect golfers and a golf team to have grit. It's just not that kind of sport, but they do, and your team specifically really does. Where did you guys build that? Like, does that just go back to that internal competition? Because it's a different level, though, of every single shot. You can kind of feel it with your guys, and it's like Sierra and I talked about. It's hard to define, but you know it when you see it, and you see it a lot with your team.
I think it's again, it goes back to and who they are as people, the competitiveness, and just refusing. Just refusing to not give in and find a way to get it done. My college coach said this all the time: just find a way. And so these guys do, and most all the time. And I think it's a testament to who we recruit, and then our culture as well. Personally, we don't have a lot of entitled guys. A lot of guys have a chip on their shoulder. I look for that, and they're always out with something to prove. It's not the guy with the prettiest swing or the or the best resume. It's the guy that finds a way to get it done. Hugh Thruckle is a great example of that. And he's with everybody has things that come up in their life from an adversity standpoint, but not very highly recruited. We got a chance. He took advantage of his chance, and he's barely come out of the lineup in 4 years. And I could go on to Ethan Day, same thing. Jack Voida, they've all risen above and they almost look for it. They almost need some adversity. I think when things are going really smooth for our guys, they get uncomfortable. We talk a lot about being comfortable in chaos, and I think that kind of resonates with those guys. Is they're looking. The crazier it is, and the more they're down, I think that's the better they perform a lot of the times. It's hard to define, and I think that's again in both programs. I think that's I'm kind of built that way. I was always undersized, never at the time, in high school, and didn't have a silver spoon and had to work for everything I had. Sierra was the same way, and so we surround ourselves with players like that, and it's that's the result is to see that tangibly in competition.
And I think it's not just adversity on the golf course; it's real life adversity for
Absolutely.
a lot of these guys. Hugh Thruckle, obviously, you think about. If I remember correctly, he had scoliosis
That's
when he
correct.
was younger, and he had I talked to his mom at the national championship. He had 2 metal rods
Yes.
put in his back.
Yep.
To do that and then have one of the better swings on the team,
Yeah.
and be one of the best players the last 2 years for you guys. It's not just like I had a tough round and I had a couple double. This is real life stuff that these guys go through that builds the team that you have today.
Yeah, we always talk too about qualifying, and we qualify so much because I tell them, guys, you're always qualifying in your life. You're always competing to be the best father, to be the best husband, to be the best employee. I can't just tap out as a father. I can't just tap out as a husband and no car to withdraw from the tournament. You have to find a way to get it taken care of, and that's not always easy. And it's great life lessons for our men and women in our programs. And golf is a little different than most sports. There's nowhere to hide. One of my former players said, "Coach, he was a baseball player. He said there's no dugout to go to hide. You're out there, and I can't sub in the middle of an event. I can't say, okay, Miles, you're struggling, you're out, give me the right hander. Like I can't tap my right arm like Tom Cantrell can. So it's it's a really hard lesson to learn for junior or for freshmen that come into the program. There's just nowhere to hide, and so I think that teaches them a lot about life. And if they're fortunate enough to go on, we have some guys trying to play professionally, and it's even harder at that level, right? And so, always finding a way to bring your best every day. And sometimes you don't have it, and that's where that grit kicks in. How good can I make my bad? And so that's something I'm proud of in all of our guys.
When you took over at 2018, you were coming from Gainesville High School, where you had a billion titles, assistant AD, I believe,
That's right.
Assistant principal,
All of it, yes.
Yeah, a head golf coach. But when you took over in 2018, I'm sure, just knowing you had expectations that were near this level, but did you ever think you would reach kind of this height and this expectation of high quality golf?
I'd be lying if I said I did. I think as a leader, you have to. I think that's the hardest part, is selling a vision when there's no vision there. And I will say this: there is a foundation set by Tom Fowler before me, and the administration before we have now with Lindsey Reeves, and trying to set up. There was a foundation here from a facility standpoint, at least initially. And then, but my vision was out here, and I always say our vision ultimately is to have a billboard up on 400 as you come into Dawsonville, Dahlonega, with national champions on it, with men and women, and that's kind of what I sold in my interview. And people, I think, thought I was a little nuts, and I am, but that definitely was something that I want, and that's hard. I was talking to one of my former players who's now coaching now, a matter of fact, this morning, and telling him the same thing. That's the hard part of coaching, because everybody thinks it's easy now, right? Like where we are today that's easy. It brings its own challenges to be elite, but I do think selling the vision of where we're going, and you got to get people to believe. I tell people all the time, we're belief salesmen. I'm trying to get young men to believe in their ability and in themselves more than they do at the time, and I'm just selling that. And sometimes you fake it till you make it, and it's hard as a coach, because sometimes you're looking back and going, gosh, am I doing the right stuff? And that's where really good administration, really good friends and colleagues like a Coach Campbell or Lee Glenn or there's people at Mary Rob Plunkett for sure in our department you go to, and you've sold your vision enough that they can resell it to you when you need it sometimes. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention my wife in those things, because I come home and I'm like, gosh, am I doing the right thing? And she goes, you know what you're doing, keep doing it, and just do the right thing by the kids, and you'll get there. And so we are. And again, every step's another set of challenges. So now we're trying to sell that belief that we can be even better than we are now, which is sometimes hard.
Every step a little bit closer to a billboard too.
That's right. I hope so.
Bryson, we really appreciate it. Hopefully we see one of those billboards come 2025.
That's the goal.
May.
That's the goal. Let's go. I appreciate you having us and getting a chance to talk about our teams and our young men and women. So thank you so much.
Always. Thank you.